Yesterday, the first bombshell. I mean, everyone uses that word. It doesn't really feel like that is the correct way to detail what happened yesterday between the Phoenix Suns and the Houston Rockets. But what I will continue to do is give opinions, analysis, updates on Kevin Durant trade rumors. And yesterday, we got our first concrete evidence of a team that, even though they're still in the playoffs, is heavily interested in Kevin Durant. Now, that can change. As of right now, if you're ranking the teams who are the most into Kevin Durant, I would probably say that the Rockets are number one now. It used to be literally 24 hours ago, the Minnesota Timberwolves. That was the team that I thought would be the most aggressive in going after Kevin Durant. But that's not the case now. The most aggressive team seems to be the Houston Rockets. And connections, personal relationships, those kind of things really matter to Kevin Durant. And one of the assistant coaches, Ime Udoka, those kind of relationships seem to matter more to Kevin Durant than potentially one with Anthony Edwards with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't really buy into the Spurs' interest simply because I don't know of the connection there for Kevin Durant and the San Antonio Spurs, as well as I'm not really sure what the Spurs would be willing to give up and if they're ready to blow up that young core right away. The New York Knicks, their trade packages just don't scratch the itch. They lack draft capital. I don't want to deal with Karl Anthony Towns on a daily basis, a guy that does try on defense, but is just absolutely abysmal, which might even be worse because there's nowhere else for him to go up when it comes to Karl Anthony Towns defensively. And his contract is atrocious, and he's not necessarily injury prone, but he's not necessarily always in the lineup either. Just a couple of years ago, he missed all but 29 games for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now you look at Mikal Bridges. I'm not necessarily looking into getting back with my ex. I enjoy Mikal Bridges. I like that he was here, but he's not the same player he was when he was here with the Phoenix Suns. He's taken a step back defensively, and he hasn't necessarily been the consistent scorer that he was evolving to be with the Phoenix Suns. The Minnesota Timberwolves are interesting because immediately you look at a guy like Jaden McDaniels and you say, that's a guy I could get my arms around. But after that, what are you getting? It would have to be a kind of complicated 3-team deal as of right now. You don't want to take back Julius Randle's god-awful contract. You would like to bring Jaden McDaniels in. They're a little hamstrung when it comes to picks. So you'd be looking to get something else from a third party. And so you ask yourself, okay, if all those teams don't necessarily make the most amount of sense, the Houston Rockets do kind of make a lot of sense. And yesterday we heard this from Charnia talking about the Phoenix Suns' interest in trading Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets and the Houston Rockets' interest in trading for the Slim Reaper.
And this is a Houston team we need to keep an eye on in this playoff run. Because when you think about monitoring who does well early in the playoffs and who might struggle, and there is going to be a level of mutual interest. There has been already with them and Kevin Durant with the Suns. Seeing how they do. Listen, if they win a couple rounds, they might be good where they're at. If you lose early, you don't win or enough to where you want to.
Right.
Could you look at a guy like Kevin Durant once again this offseason? Monitor them.
Once you see that sort of concrete evidence come out that the Houston Rockets are actively rooting for Kevin Durant to come to their team, as well as you pile it up with the story that 2 days ago now, where Rich Kleiman has already started to fly out to Phoenix to work on trade packages for Kevin Durant to another team and work together in that aspect, which me and my co-host Brendan Clean of Locked On Phoenix Suns both found that a little peculiar because it's April, at that point, 14th. No trades can get made until July, I believe, 1st. We're still all of April, May, June, away from an actual trade being done. Now, these things can be discussed prior to July 1st, likely in the second, third week of June, but it didn't make a lot of sense. So now with all of this stuff starting to come out a little hot and heavy, you start to kind of look at the trade packages that can be offered to you. And as much as I like Jabari Smith, and as much as I like Eason or Jalen Green a lot less than the other two, You ask yourself, you look at the players that the Rockets can offer, and I understand there's Rockets fans that watch this show, that watch Locked On Phoenix Suns, and they'll come in the comment section and say, oh, you think you're going to get I just read a comment that said, oh, you think you're going to get Jabari Smith for a 38-year-old Kevin Durant? And it's like, yeah, I do. I do think the Suns will get that. Simply because this is not your classic 38-year-old. This guy's still an all-timer, averaging 27 points a game. Efficiently, I might add. Oh, and he's not really injured. This is a guy that plays a lot of games. He could have played this year and made the, 65 game mark, but there was no reason for him to come back. Suns were toast. So for all this idea that the Suns are going to get less than you think, no, I'm not buying into this idea that it's going to be Fred VanVleet, Eason, and a first-round pick. If that's the case, I'd rather just keep Kevin Durant around, try to retool the team around him, and then the Houston Rockets can go kick rocks. But more than anything, when you're looking at picks or players, it's going to be one or the other when you trade with, let's just call it the Houston Rockets for right now. And I look at Jabari Smith Jr., good player, big, lengthy. My guy Brendan Clean calls him a blue chip role player. I'm not necessarily sure he's there yet. And then Tari Eason as well, another role player. You ask yourself, because there's going to be a salary filler in there as well. Whether it's Dylan Brooks, whether it's Fred VanVleet, I find it hard to believe that they would trade Fred VanVleet. Would I rather have Jabari Smith, Eason, Jalen Green, or would I rather take two of those guys and get more picks back? Because I'm not really interested in the Jalen Green show. Glorified shot chucker. Really good against the Phoenix Suns, so maybe that's why Phoenix Suns have a skewed view of him. But he is what I would say he used to have potential. He's not necessarily the guy that's going to evolve into this Devin Booker-like scorer. He's more of the Jordan Poole cloth than anything. Shoots the ball a lot, not very efficient, underdeveloped, a little small, and I'm just not into that idea of bringing Jalen Green here. So if you can get an Eason and a Jabari Smith and 2 first-round picks, I think that's what you're looking at when it comes to a Kevin Durant trade. And basically what I think I'm trying to warn Suns fans of at this point in the season, at this point in the offseason, I guess I should say, which is 3 days, and things can change. The Rockets could get desperate, lose in the first round, and be ready to make some serious changes. And the Minnesota Timberwolves could lose in the first round and be ready to make some drastic changes and overpay for a Kevin Durant. But barring either of those things happen, maybe even the Knicks, maybe they get blown out in the first round and they realize the Mikal Bridges thing, the Karl-Anthony Towns thing, it's not working. What you're rooting for is for those teams to blow up, because if that doesn't happen, it's starting to feel like you're going to get less for Kevin Durant, not more. And that worries me, because then you're setting yourself up for a rebuild, not a retool. And I'm of the belief that a retool is possible and to get back into the playoffs next year. Because if you nail the Kevin Durant trade and you draft another solid player in this year's draft, Ryan Dunn makes another leap. Oso Ighodaro makes another leap. Devin Booker turns back into that number one scorer type of player. I do think you can be a 6 seed. But right now, you're not in control of your own destiny. This is all about what other teams would be doing. You got to root for other teams to fail. And I see in the chat from my guy Robert this morning, how about Zion Williamson? If I wasn't on YouTube, I would use some drastic words to describe that. Maybe a couple years ago, I would take a flyer on Zion Williamson. But what I don't need to do is bring another injury-prone player who has issues off the court to this Suns team. I'm good. I appreciate the idea, but I'm good. The Suns need to retool this roster, and it's not with Zion Williamson. It's got to be with high-level role players, big players, that being that. I know everyone was like, oh, this team needs... What the Suns front office messed up is, oh, they should have gotten lengthy 3-and-D players. Yeah, you know what every team wants? Lengthy 3-and-D players. Those are currency in the NBA. Oh, the Suns screwed it up. No, they really didn't. They got Kevin Durant. They could have gotten one other 3-and-D guy instead of getting Bradley Beal. But this idea that they could have just traded for Jaden McDaniels and traded for Mikal Bridges again or Cam Johnson, like that's not the case. Those types of players are very valuable. You chose between Kevin Durant or the 3-and-D players that you did, and just so we're clear, I would have done it again. Kevin Durant's an all-time type of player. There are some missteps that they had, and I would have rectified some of those things, but at the end of the day, this team was just not going to compete for a championship. And at this point, what you're worried about is getting less for Kevin Durant, not more. So you're rooting for the Knicks to blow up. You're rooting for the Rockets to blow up or the Timberwolves to be a disaster in the postseason. Because right now, some of the offers that I'm seeing being floated around worry me that you could be getting less for Kevin Durant, not more. And as much as I like an Eason or a Jalen Green or a Jabari Smith Jr., young guys that can add some vibrancy to this team, I might just want picks at that point. My guy Drew Dog, hello from Toronto. How are you doing, my brother? So good to have you in the chat this morning. But that's how I'm feeling, is looking at some of these offers, as much as I like Jabari Smith Jr., and I like Eason, both blue chip level role players. That's what this Suns team needs to help build the next great version of the Phoenix Suns. Would I rather Jabari Smith Jr. and all of the Suns picks back? I think I probably would, because I think I could just draft an Eason or trade for a better level of Eason or a Jalen Green. And so instead of Bari and Jalen Green and Eason and then a salary cap filler, which I do think is totally fair to ask of the Houston Rockets, regardless of Houston Rockets fans thinking they're, not going to trade everyone for these players. You have to give up someone. Immediately right off the bat, you're going to have to give up salary fillers. You can't just trade for Kevin Durant. This isn't 2K. So Jabari Smith and Eason, those types of things make sense. But what you're really hoping for right now is for those teams to blow up. Otherwise, you start to turn into the, oh my God, are the Suns going to get less for Kevin Durant, not more? And then that spirals into, well, hell, we're turning into a rebuild, not a retool. And then that spirals into, damn, Devin Booker said he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. And that is where you really start to get into the, holy hell, are we going to have to trade Devin Booker? And you don't want to be and have those problems. So that's how I feel about it. And so those types of things really have started to worry me about the Phoenix Suns trade offers so far for Kevin Durant, and that being with the Timberwolves or the Knicks, or at this point, the Houston Rockets.